All right, we're good.
All right, sweet. Welcome everyone to Satoshi Chats, episode 2, 3, or 4. We don't know yet. My name is Jack,
And I'm Casey.
and today's discussion is going to be about gold and how Bitcoin compares to it. We should say.
Yeah, so we've got a lot to talk about today. Um, Gold is a really interesting topic when you relate it to Bitcoin, just because they were essentially are, used for the same thing, and so gold's the only example of anything in the past that really has
It has a longer history,
it
you could
really
say.
I mean yeah, it has the longest history of money usage, and it really is the only example of anything close to Bitcoin's type of scarcity and ability to create capital accumulation within a society. So
Yes.
it's a very unique thing. It is a metal. It's got a lot of utilitarian uses, and we'll get a little bit into that. But mostly, we're going to think of it in terms of money today and how it was used as a money.
Now, before we dive on in, let's just get a little recap going. So, the current Bitcoin price is approximately $18,700. And the date is November 25th, 2020.
Yes, very nice day for Bitcoin indeed, just like every other day. Um, so let's
Sorry,
let's
I had to mute myself right there, but continue.
no problem. Let's start right off with how gold holds its value due to its inelastic supply, and that has a lot of parts to it. So let's break it down, and I'm actually going to work backwards here and start with the inelastic supply, and then move into how it holds value. So when you think about inelastic supply, inelastic meaning um, unlikely to react to big changes in supply or demand, or the supply at least is unlikely to react to big changes in demand, and that's largely in part into how it's complicated to mine and expensive to mine and relatively scarce. So it's impossible really to um, overflow the production of gold as opposed to how much is floating out there.
Yes, it requires human hours to produce. So I mean, just that in itself, I mean, it's valuable there because it requires you know, to in order to mine gold, you need to spend a lot of money. So
Yeah, and so
that in itself makes it valuable.
because you can't simply the inelastic supply lends itself to um, you can't simply flood the market to make money. It becomes a strong store of value, and so that's what I mean by saying holding value. It's a storage
Yeah.
value, as in you can place some money there, and because of the fact that there is no substitute in terms of being able to mine it more quickly than others or anything like that. There's no ability to game the market in that sense. Because of that, it's a safe place to park your money. Now,
Yeah.
this has all been talking about what's good about gold, but Jack, do you want to start us off on some of the first things that are necessarily
Yeah,
not good about
a
gold?
couple things that immediately come to mind. Haha, that's a little joke right there. Um, but the things that immediately come to mind are just the fact that you need to hold it in a physical location. So I mean, it's so obvious, but I mean, to own gold, you need to store it in a physical location, and you need to be responsible for it. You need to be there and secure it, maybe store it in a safe or whatever, wherever you're putting it. You need to keep it secure. Um, so that in itself it's not the greatest because you could easily it can be lost. It can be stolen. It can be tampered with. So that's one of the things that I don't really like about gold, in the fact that I would be responsible in holding it and keeping it um,
Right. Could you
safe,
imagine, like
especially
in
when it's
the
my life savings. Yeah,
yeah, could you imagine back in the day when you, as like a family or as a household, would have had to store your entire savings and wealth in like a little treasure chest hidden like in
yeah.
beneath your house or in a brick or something? I mean, it would
I
have been
can't even
so
imagine.
dangerous.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how many times families have just lost all their savings because they just get robbed, like straight
Yeah,
up.
yeah, like
Like it's ridiculous.
the medieval world and the world that was filled with gold pieces being used as money, that type of world, I mean, not just the medieval world, though gold's been used mostly, honestly, in the recent times in like the 1700s, 1800s, stuff like that. And when it was used like that, I mean, could you imagine how likely you were to be robbed if you were traveling with gold? I mean, you
Yeah,
think about the Wild West and all the bank robbers and stuff. They weren't going, I mean, they probably got dollars and quarters and stuff, but they were going for that gold too.
yeah, exactly.
And that's because it's a physical asset that can be stolen right from your nose,
Yeah,
and so that's
something that also I mean, yeah, that obviously that was that pertained to the age of, like not as much enforcement of the law, I guess you could say. Like people could get away with that kind of stuff.
yeah,
You could really get away with that nowadays, but
right.
still, I feel like it's still possible. You
It's
still
just
want,
it's just not as secure. Holding gold pieces today would not be as secure as holding something digitally. And so let's. I think that's a good segue into another thing that's bad about gold in that it's not digital and therefore it's not programmable to be used in modern applications.
yeah. I mean, yeah, it requires the two people that want to exchange something for them to physically be in the same location. Or I mean, you could ship it, but it's costly. It's risky. Um, there's a lot of risks you take on when you're doing something like that.
Right.
When you're on when it's on the digital side, you don't have to take on those risks as much.
Yeah, you can
So,
insure
and
things like that through a smart contract
yeah,
now.
that's where something like Bitcoin comes into play, where it costs extremely less to send $10,000 across the world than it would be 10,000, however much gold and $10,000 worth, and
Yeah,
you're taking on risks by shipping it. It could be lost, it could be taken. Who knows who's handling those packages.
right. Um, it's a big. It comes into uh, trust. Like you have to trust the companies handling it. Nowadays, you have to
Yeah,
trust the governments that hold the gold. You have to trust the companies that own and ship the gold. There's so much trust involved, and when it comes to things like Bitcoin and digital currency, there's so much less trust needed. It's
yeah, you could verify for yourself.
yeah, and trust is, I feel like people always hear the word trust and think of like a good thing. Like it's in the sense of money, you don't want to have to trust your money. You
Yeah,
want to believe and know that your money and be secure in the fact that it's going to do what it needs to do. And
yeah,
to trust money is to have a chance to be harmed, I guess, or have your trust broken by it. I don't know. To trust money is not a good thing. So,
yeah,
especially fiat money. I mean, you can trust Bitcoin. So,
yeah. I agree. It's ridiculous, very ridiculous.
yeah.
What
But gold, yeah.
what would you like to discuss next? Would you like to?
Let's talk about how gold basically helped societies grow into
Oh,
modernity by
yeah,
allowing capital to accumulate because people were allowed to save,
yeah. Wow, what a I that's one of my favorite things to talk about.
right?
Um, I could go off about this. So I mean, when you have a monetary system that is backed by sound money,
Hmm.
you're you're almost allowing anyone, rich, poor, middle class, you're giving them the ability to save money and not have it be inflated and not even to have like why do people invest in the stock market? Because it outperforms, the
Cash
dollar being
savings.
inflated. But why can't that dollar increasing in value every year? And that's exactly what Bitcoin is doing.
Yeah,
So when you have a sound money as your in your government, it 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 allows everyone, rich or poor, to save money and be able to keep that wealth and not have it be robbed from you and pickpocketed behind your back by the government. And I really think that sound money allows for everyone to thrive in the economy. What do you think about that?
no, I totally agree. When you encourage saving and hard work with rewarding the savers, it basically leads to the proliferation of great societies. I mean, the reason we're so prosperous is because we at one time were on a gold standard, and that allowed
Yeah,
people to save, accumulate capital, allocate that capital where they saw best fit, and then
and
that
it
would
goes down generations. Like the wealth can be handed down generations, whereas you know, if my great grandmother worked her entire life for 10,000, great grandmother, saved $10,000 in gold, since she saved it in a sound money, it would be able to keep its value, if not even grow, passed down generations. And I think it's really important in an economy.
right. Because here's the thing, and I really saw something today that struck me. It was a video of a guy, and I'm not gonna say who it was. I know it's actually quite interesting writer about investing. But anyways, he was saying how people are dumb essentially to not take advantage of the debt market right now because money's so cheap because they're printing so much and interest rates are so low. And I thought that was so profound that they were rewarding the people who were taking on debt. I mean, it's so interesting that a society would
Yeah,
operate that way because that's so reckless. I mean, you're encouraging people to take large risks and take leverage and speculate, and you're rewarding the people who are essentially the worst at doing what they're doing.
exactly. That is ridiculous
And so
and
for me,
outrageous.
that's just like that was an interesting thing to see, you know.
Yeah, very much.
Um,
Wow.
so rewarding people who tried to do well for generations after them, doesn't that sound like a way to make a society better over time? What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I really think I really think it would because um, the wealth is kept and it's not lost ever. It's not robbed by people. It's kept from the person who earned it. So it's leaving the money in the correct hands, I think.
Right. So like for example, instead of concentrating wealth at the top of the food chain, it spreads out amongst the middle
Yeah,
classes. Um,
exactly.
but see, it's interesting that I find that a lot of the people who are against Bitcoin on Twitter and stuff, they're like institutional economists and stuff like that, and businessmen who have been around for a long time, and I feel like those people don't, not that they don't want to see generational change or something like that, but I do feel like they're somehow like stuck in the old ways of the fiat debt market kind of stuff where money is cheap and it's easy for the rich guys to get richer, you know? And I feel like that
So are you saying they like that almost in a selfish, like, are you
right
saying where
because
they're
it's
selfish
easy.
and they want
I,
to keep that wealth?
yeah, personally I think society at large, and I think I think a lot of Bitcoin maximalists would agree with this. I think society at large would benefit from a Bitcoin standard versus the debt standards we have right now, right?
Exactly. Of
Whereas a lot of
course.
these people are saying that, well, without the debt standards, the capitalists wouldn't be able to make so much money. And while maybe that might be true, I think at at large society would benefit. So how could someone argue against that? I mean, I don't know. I guess
Yeah.
that's selfish, but
All right, let's move on to this question I have for you.
sure, let's do
So
it.
right now, the gold market cap is around 10, 11 trillion dollars, give or take.
Hmm.
That's the last time I remember it being, but let's just say 10, 11, 12 trillion. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is about 350 billion, not trillion, billion market cap.
Right.
So, um, first question is, which one will be higher in 10 years?
Okay.
I mean, give or take 10 years, and if not, when do you think, or if Bitcoin will pass the market cap of gold?
Well,
You could give your take, and then I'll respond right after you.
first of all, I'm not in the business of predictions, but if I were to predict, I would say that Bitcoin's going to have a higher market cap. Why? Simply because um, the technology of the future will always beat out the technology of yesterday. I mean, Apple's market cap 10 years ago, 2010, let's think about that. That would have been probably no more than 400 million, something like that. And now I believe they're the first trillion, they were the first $1 trillion company quite a while
Yeah,
ago. And now they've exceeded that for quite a bit, I think.
that's
So,
so insane. A trillion dollar, like, imagine
yeah,
in 2008 to say that there is a trillion dollar public company. I mean, that's
yeah,
wild.
right. So 10 years can change a lot, and I don't doubt the power of Bitcoin to absorb that market cap all into itself completely. Um, and same thing with the bond market. But like I said, I'm not in the business of predicting things. I just think that
Yes.
Bitcoin, if it operates in the way that many of the Bitcoin maximalists say it would operate, then it should absorb many other forms of monetary storage simply because that's the nature of being the form of value, like the form of
Yeah,
storage value.
Bitcoin is just a large black hole, just taking in
Right,
a lot
right.
of wealth.
The classic term, the black hole. So
Yeah.
I think that's really the answer there is if you look at the black hole, the answer lies in that answer itself.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe as well that I believe Bitcoin will surpass the market cap of gold. Um, who knows when, but I really think I mean, given its history compared to gold, it's been only been around for 12 years, and look at how much it's grown with absolutely you know, like nothing no, no marketing, I guess you could say.
Uh huh.
But and gold's been around for decades, and it hasn't it's not comparable to the not comparable to how much more superior Bitcoin is to it. So um, with its history, Bitcoin is expected to surpass the market cap of gold
Right.
within within a decent amount of time.
Right. Um. Yeah. So, I have a question now for you, Jack. So my question is about the utility factor. Everyone always talks about this. Um, People say that gold has utility because of uh, its applications in electronics and machinery,
Yeah.
etc. Why does that not matter to whether or not Bitcoin will exceed it in market capitalization? Why does
It doesn't matter because it's useless. I mean,
that?
it's just a piece of metal. Yes, it could be, it's used for I believe they're used in iPhones a little bit,
Yeah,
for like trend it's like it's a good what is it called?
transistor, whatever.
Transactor, transistor, yeah, something.
Yes.
But I mean, and then it's also used for jewelry. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a piece of metal that it's valuable because we say it is. And I guess you could say that
Yeah.
with Bitcoin as well, but it's way more scarce than gold. So it doesn't even compare to. I mean, yeah, in jewelry, it's expensive because it's scarce and rare, but Bitcoin is way more scarce. So, um, I
Right.
mean,
And
that's what I think.
I think I think it's funny because like if you removed the so like right now the value of gold is its its utilitarian value plus its value as a storage value, right? So you've got that equation right there. You've got the utilitarian value, what you're using it for, like that's how much the
Yeah,
value is in US dollar amounts, plus the amount that people are valuing it currently at storing their dollars. So you've got those
yeah,
two in there because inherently if the gold wasn't used as a store value, there would be a value for it. And what would that be? I don't know. I'd say probably somewhere in within the average metal range. I mean,
yeah. It would
what
just be
is
like
like
a
silver?
standard
Yeah,
steel. Yeah,
exactly. Steel, silver, stuff like iron, copper. What? I mean, it's a relatively rare one, so it'd be probably still worth something. But I think right now it's highly inflated with the idea that it's a storage of value, and if that were to pop, as in move to Bitcoin, I think people would be shocked at suddenly how
exactly.
worthless it is, essentially.
And the beauty, the main reason I love Bitcoin over gold is because when the price of gold goes up, the supply increases when gold goes up in price. So, suddenly gold is $2,000 an ounce, and oh, here are all these gold miners spending more money mining gold because gold is more expensive. And you can't do that with Bitcoin.
Yep.
And I want to read this tweet from this guy I follow. His name is Bitcoin Carl
Hmm.
underscore at Bitcoin Carl underscore. And he says, surely Bitcoin miners will ramp up production of BTC to fulfill all this new demand. But wait, they can't.
Uh huh.
And that's pretty much saying that when when Bitcoin goes up in price, there's no way to spend more money to up the production like how you could do gold when gold increases in price.
Yeah, you're
And there's no
stuck.
way to do that, and that's why it's so much superior because it's so scarce that even when even when there's a lot of demand, the supply stays the same.
Yep. And it all harkens back to the same inelasticity of the supply, uh, so yeah, such an interesting fundamental trait to money that both gold and Bitcoin share, but Bitcoin just happens to be superior at. And when a
Yeah,
money is superior, humans will choose that money every time, guarantee it.
yeah,
So it's just a matter of adoption and time. Uh, but yeah, that's how things work. Yeah. So I think that's all we're gonna have time for today.
yeah. That was a
We
good little chat about gold. Little
Yeah,
Satoshi chat.
absolutely. We want to thank you all for listening, and hope you listen into Satoshi Chat's next episode.
Yes. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Um, Happy Thanksgiving and have a good one. Peace.
Peace out.
Yes, that was quality.
That was extremely high quality.